Hello everyone and welcome to my little corner of the internet. My name's Michael and I'm bitten by radioactive book. Today sees the last installment of my 15 in 2015 series, and today we're talking about the 15 books I most expect to read in 2015. And having said that title name, I'm going to lie a bit. Because we all know that there are some very popular books that are coming out or may not come out in 2015. For example, the new book by George R. R. Martin, The Winds of Winter, the fourth book in Scott Lynch's Gentleman Bastard series, The Thorn of Amberlane, books by the popular and famous Brandon Sanderson, like Firefight, his second book in the Reckoner series, or Shadow of Selves. Is it that? I'm not sure. It's the next book in the Mistborn series, of course, that's coming out in October, and we're getting a second one of this as well then in January 2016. Joe Abercrombie will continue and throw out both his the remaining books in his Shattered World series, Half a World or Half the World and Half the War, I think, and also like Mark Lawrence will have the next installment in his series. And of course I'm excited for all of them, but as they are very popular authors in science fiction and fantasy, and I think already get a lot of attention, and most of you will know that those books are coming out, I try to focus on authors that might be not as well known as they are, and that I personally enjoy or that I personally want to try out. So it's not like the 15 books I anticipate the most, but it's 15 books I really anticipate for 2015. So let's get started, and the first one is of course the book I'm expecting the most in 2015, and if you know me for a while that won't be a surprise for you. It's The Fall of Light by Steven Erikson. It's the second installment in his Carcanos trilogy, which is like a prequel trilogy set in the ancient past of his Malazan Book of the Fallen series. There are a lot of interesting information about how the Elder Gods in the series came to be, how the Tisti races came to be in the ancient past. Of course, we have some familiar characters from the Malazan Book of the Fallen, because many of Steven Erikson's characters are very, very long-lived. So even as we're going like 3,000 years into the past, I think, or even more, I'm actually not sure. I think it's 3,000, but it could be more. We still have a lot of familiar characters, and I'm really looking forward to see how the series continues. And the book will be out in August 13th. Next up, we have another series you might have seen me talk about lately a bit more. It's the Traitor cycle by Miles Cameron, a very medieval series, but with very unique ideas, a great immersion into the world. The author pays attention to a lot of detail about medieval life, and I really enjoy this writing style of his, and I've read the first book, The Red Knight, in 2013, and it was my top read of 2013, and I just read The Fell Sword, the second book in the series, and it was really good, and it's also in my top 5 of 2014. So of course I'm really looking forward to the third installment of the series that comes out October 15th. Next up, we have a book that got a tremendous reception based solely on the cover of the book and the blurb by George R. R. Martin. It's The Dinosaur Lot by Victor Milan. It's coming out in July. It doesn't have like a set date for July, and George R. R. Martin describes it as Game of Thrones meets Jurassic Park. And seriously, who doesn't want to read that? Next up we have an author that you might have seen me talk about already, and you will through the course of the year, because I'm going to read the Shadows of the Abt series through the year by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And Adrian Tchaikovsky actually, after completing this 10-book series, has a standalone coming out, and I think it's kind of a flintlock fantasy. It's called The Guns of the Dawn, and it's coming out in February 12th. And it is the story of a woman in a land that is torn by war, and so many men have fallen now that each family has to send at least one woman into the war. And yeah, our main protagonist is one of these women, and we see how she reacts to all the cruelties of war. And yeah, that premise seemed very, very interesting for me. Next up, we have another author I'm really, really looking forward to reading more of in the upcoming years. It's Elizabeth Bear. I've read one book so far by her, On the Windwrecked Stars, which was set in a very interesting kind of science fiction setting that was mixed up with northern or Nordic mythology. So we had Valkyries, but in a science fiction world. It was very, very yeah, imaginative. And Elizabeth Bear got a lot of praise for her last trilogy, set in a more like nomadic yeah, setting, more Mongolian feeling, rider people, very, very interesting. I'm trying to read this trilogy next year, but she has a steampunk now coming up, and it's called Karen Memory. It's coming out February 3rd, and Karen is a I think she's a prostitute. She was an orphan, and now she works in a bordello. And there are murders going on, and there is a mysterious man who has a machine that can control other people. So yeah, I love steampunk. I think Elizabeth Bear is a tremendous writer with highly imaginative ideas, and I'm really looking forward to this one. Next up we have Unbreakable by W.C. Bowers. Unbreakable is marketed as being a military SF in the style of John Scalzi. We have the planet called Montana, I think, and Montana is more of a backwater planet, but then yeah, all hell breaks loose when Montana becomes like the focus of the conflict between two human space empires. And yeah, that kind of premise and comparing it to John Scalzi brought it up on my radar, and I like to give this one a try. Next up we have Clash of Eagles by Alan Smale. This is a book that's coming out in March 17th. And it has a very interesting alternate history premise. It's a Roman legion that actually makes it to the US, or then just to America, and a Roman legion that then of course meets like Native American culture and yeah, some Native American tribes. And that seems to be a really interesting idea, and I like alternate history and toying around with what-if scenarios, and I already got the ARC copy from NetGalley for this, so you will see a review of this book, but as it comes out in March, the review will come up more closer to the release date. Next up we have Those Above by Daniel Polanski. This will be out February 26th. It's a very interesting promise, because those above are some kind of godly beings in this fantasy world of Daniel Polanski, and the humans tried to overthrow them, but they failed like miserably and were put down by those above. And now we have a woman who lost her her husband in the war against those above, and she has, I think, an idea or a gift, I don't know, and she wants to duel one of those above, and maybe knows a secret to kill them. I'm not quite sure, but that sounded like like a very interesting premise, and I'm really looking forward to try this one out. Another author I would really like to get into is Ian Tregillis. He had a science fiction, alternate history trilogy out a couple of years ago, and that received very high praise. And now he has a new series coming up. It's The Mechanical, and The Mechanical seems to be like a steampunk thing, or maybe like a robot thing, because the mechanical is some kind of slave to humans, and there is not much of a blurb, but I had the immediate feeling of connecting it maybe with Asimov and things like his robot things, how mechanical beings are treated when they are enslaved and when they get their own sentience. So yeah, I'm really interested to see what Ian Tregillis has in store for us. Next up we have The Whispering Swarm by Michael Moorcock. That will be out January 13th. As you might know, I was a huge fan of Michael Moorcock in my late teen years. I read Elric of Melniboné, I read the Rune Staff series, I've read Corum by him, I read The Eternal Champion. I read a lot of books by Michael Moorcock, and now he has like a new book or a new series coming out, and yeah, I'm dying to know what this is all about. It seems to be set in the backdrop of World War II and has some autobiographical elements as well, but there's also like fantasy elements of a hidden like world beneath of London, so maybe a bit like Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman, and I'm very interested to see where Michael Moorcock takes it, and how I like his writing when it's written nowadays. Next up we have The Black Wolves by Kate Elliott. It's a tale about a veteran that led like an elite regiment, but then the regiment was dissolved, and now a new threat comes up, and the king wants this veteran to put the regiment together again, and but it's not really sure if the veteran can be trusted anymore. And I usually like that kind of premise. That sounds a lot like the Iron Elf series by Chris Evans. And I'm really interested to see what spin Kate Elliott has for this series. I've read like the first two Spirit Walker books of her and want to read the last one this year. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to get into the new series by her. That will be out October 6th. Next up we have another series where I read the first book. It's Stiletto by Daniel O'Malley. It's more of a contemporary fantasy where we follow Miffoni Thomas, and when we met Miffoni in the first book, she had like amnesia, and then had only some written clues about her existence, and we puzzled her existence out with her during the course of the first book, and she got involved there with a hidden ministry that deals with paranormal and supernatural threats. And yeah, I'm really eager to see how the story continues. This book will be out July the 2nd. Next up we have The Vanishing Throne by Elizabeth May. This one will be out September 17th. It's the second installment in her Falconer series. The first one was The Falconer, and it's a story that reminded me a lot of Soulless by Gail Carriger. It also has like a very action action-packed approach. It has a female action heroine as the main protagonist that also has to struggle with, yeah, the oppressive society that expect her to be like a good debutante and maybe become a good wife later on, but she's way more interested in slaying fairies and supernatural creatures. And the first book was really interesting, and I'm looking forward to read the second one. Next up we have Old Man's Ghosts by Tom Lloyd. It's the second book in his 100 Houses series, and after Moon's Artifice, and I haven't read the first one, but I bought it already, and yeah, really want to try it out. It seems to be a very interesting kind of series. I love the covers, and I want to get into the series a bit more next year. And when the second book comes out in July 1st, I want to have read like the first one already. And last but not least, we have one of the bigger names in fantasy. It's Peter V. Brett, and it's the fourth book in his Demon Cycle series that is highly anticipated. It's the Skull Throne, and yeah, it's a very interesting series. It's going to be out depending on where you live in March 31st or April the 9th, so both UK and US releases are really close together, and I've read the first book so far and really enjoyed it, and maybe plan on reading like the second and third book next year. And so yeah, when the fourth book comes out, I'm really eager to see how that continues. So that was a little glimpse into the books I anticipate for 2015. As I said in the beginning, there are a lot of other books by way more famous authors that I'm also anticipating. So if everything really comes out next year will be a great year for science fiction and fantasy releases. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. If you enjoyed this little glimpse into 2015 releases, please hit the like button. If you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. If you want to know what's coming up on my channel, look inside the description box. There's a little segment there called On the Horizon. I wish you a good day and hope you get bitten by a really good book too. Bye.